You've already lost opportunities to a blinking cursor. You know that. There's at least one decision that's been sitting in your head for weeks, maybe months. You think about it in the shower, on the commute, staring at the ceiling at night, and still nothing happens. In this video, I'm going to give you a simple 3-step system to kill that paralysis. A system you can use in 3 minutes every day for the next 21 days to stop overthinking and start shipping. If you're tired of analysis paralysis, of always feeling almost ready but never moving, this is for you. We're going to do 4 things together. First, we're going to talk honestly about why you hesitate, why your brain keeps hitting the brakes when you try to move. Second, I'm going to show you how creators actually learn by shipping, not by thinking. Third, I'll give you a practical 3-minute decision script you can use today. And finally, we'll turn it into a 21-day challenge that can permanently change how you act. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney. I like that line because it's brutal and true. You and I both know this. Most people never get started. Not really. They get close, they open the laptop, they stare at the blank email, the empty project file, the blinking cursor. Then they start negotiating with their own mind until the opportunity quietly expires. I've watched that blinking cursor destroy more dreams than any competitor ever did. Right now, I'm not talking to some vague crowd, I'm talking to you, the version of you who is tired of replaying the same decision in your head, the version that knows you're capable of more and is sick of the delay. As you listen, I want you to hold one specific decision in mind, the one you keep postponing, because we're going to aim everything at that. So let's have an honest conversation about overthinking, about hesitation, and about how, in the next 21 days, you and I are going to crush it. I want you to picture a moment. You're about to send a risky email, ask for an opportunity, launch a tiny product, post an idea in public, your fingers hover above the keyboard, your brain starts a movie. What if this is stupid? What if they say no? What if I embarrass myself? What if I'm not ready? The movie runs so long, the moment dies. Here's the painful truth. You weren't beaten by someone smarter. You were beaten by your own hesitation. I've seen it inside teams. I've seen it inside myself. Inaction has a very gentle voice, but the bill it sends later is huge. When I dropped out of Reed College, it looked irresponsible. My parents were terrified. I didn't have a grand plan. I didn't have a spreadsheet of pros and cons. I just knew I was wasting someone else's money on classes I didn't care about. So I walked out, but I didn't stop learning. I started dropping in on classes that fascinated me. One of them was calligraphy. Beautiful, completely impractical calligraphy. No one could explain how that class would pay off. There was no certainty, no clear path, just curiosity and a decision. If I had overthought that, if I had said, let me analyze this for 6 more months, the Macintosh would never have had beautiful typography. You wouldn't have multiple typefaces and proportionally spaced fonts on a computer in the way we now take for granted. That's what overthinking steals. It doesn't just steal the action, it steals the future effects of that action, the invisible gifts. Underneath your overthinking, the fear is simple. Fear of being wrong, fear of wasting effort, fear of looking foolish. So you aim for certainty. You want reassurance, you want guarantees. You tell yourself you're being careful and responsible when really you're stuck in a loop, searching for a level of safety that does not exist. Let me tell you something from building products, companies, and my own life. Certainty is a luxury creators do not get. When you're doing something new, you're not supposed to feel safe. If you feel completely safe, you're probably late. You're probably copying, you're probably hiding. There's a phrase I've repeated many times. Stay hungry, stay foolish. People put it on posters and mugs, but very few people actually live it. Staying foolish means you acted before everything is perfectly clear. You move while there is still doubt. You trust that you will learn by doing. Hunger and caution rarely sit at the same table. So if you're waiting for the fear to disappear before you move, I can already tell you the ending. You'll still be waiting years from now. The fear doesn't go away. You just learn to walk with it. When we were building the original Macintosh, we didn't know if the world was ready for a friendly computer. We didn't have 100 case studies. We had a tiny, insanely focused team and an unreasonable amount of belief. You know how we learned what worked? We shipped. I became obsessed with seeing real things, not theoretical perfection. I would pull people into rooms and say, like, show me, not tell me, not write me a memo, show me what it does, show me what's real. Because real learning happens when something ships, when it leaves your head and hits the world. An idea in your mind is like vapor. It feels big and impressive. But until you build a prototype, write the email, launch the project. It has zero weight. You can't test vapor, you can't learn from vapor, you can only admire it. In creative work, you make decisions with incomplete information, always. You never have enough data on a truly new thing. If you try to wait for certainty, you'll watch more courageous people pass you by with rough, imperfect, shipped versions of the thing you were still polishing in your imagination. At Apple, the products that changed everything did not come from endless polishing in our heads. They came from a rhythm. Decide, build, show, adjust, repeat. We pushed teams hard to bring something tangible, not the perfect plan, something we could touch, critique, tear apart, and rebuild. Here's something else you need to understand. Focus is not about saying yes, it's about saying no. Overthinking is often just disguised indecision, and indecision is often just a refusal to say no. When you overthink, you're usually juggling 20 possible futures in your head. What you're really afraid of is locking in one and letting the others die. So you keep analyzing, trying to keep every door open. You end up stuck in the hallway. The best products we ever shipped came from brutal focus, from saying no to 1,000 ideas and 1,000 fears so we could say yes to one bold path. The same is true in your life. You want less overthinking? Start by accepting this. Some doors must close, some options must die. That's not a tragedy, that's progress. Right now, I want you to answer something honestly in your own mind. How many opportunities have you already lost to hesitation, jobs you didn't apply for, messages you didn't send, ideas you didn't build, conversations you never started? What did that cost you financially, emotionally, in self-respect? Sit with that for a moment. Feel it. Now let's change it. Overthinking loves open-ended time. Give a fear unlimited room and it will fill it. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to put your decisions into a box so small your fear can't even fit through the door. I call it a 3-minute decision. You can use it for any everyday choice that matters but won't kill you. Starting a project, sending an email, posting a piece of work, picking a direction for your studies, trying a new habit, launching a tiny product, asking a person you respect for help. Here's how I do it. First, I define the stakes in one truthful sentence. I ask myself, if I'm wrong, what actually happens? Not what your imagination says, not the Hollywood disaster version, what actually happens in real life. Maybe I feel awkward for a week. Maybe I waste a few hours, maybe a small amount of money, maybe a bruised ego. Most of the time, you'll realize the worst case is embarrassment or a minor loss, not catastrophe. Your brain has been acting like a drama director. This one sentence pulls you back to reality. When I started Next, after being fired from Apple, the worst case was not my life is over. The worst case was I spend years building a computer that doesn't fully work in the market. That's painful, but it's not death. And you know what happened? Next didn't conquer the world as a hardware product, but its software became the foundation for the modern Mac and the iPhone. The dots connected later in ways I couldn't imagine. If I had waited for some perfect guarantee, none of that would exist. So you start with that sentence. If I'm wrong, what actually happens? Say it out loud. Write it on paper. Shrink the monster. Second, I pick a direction in 3 minutes using what I know now. 3 minutes, not 3 weeks, not 3 months. You can feel your own mind already resisting that. It wants more time, it wants to keep the door open, but that is the point. You're teaching your brain that it does not get infinite time to play the fear movie. List your options quickly. Don't decorate them. Which one moves you closer to who you want to become? Not who your friends expect you to be, who you want to become. Which option creates the most learning, even if it fails? Then decide. Not maybe, decide in 3 minutes. Your mind will scream for more time. It will say, we need more research, more opinions, more scenarios. That's just fear trying to negotiate for its usual palace. You tell it, no, you get 3 minutes, that's it. Third, I set a review date. This is crucial. Decisions feel terrifying when you treat them like permanent tattoos. But most choices in your life are closer to whiteboard sketches. You can erase and redraw. So I decide, I'll revisit this in 2 weeks, or I'll evaluate this in 1 month. I put that review date somewhere I'll see it. And until that date arrives, I execute the decision I made, fully. I don't reopen the debate every night. I don't move the furniture around in my brain. When you know you can adjust later, you free yourself to move now. That's the 3-minute decision. Define the real stakes in 1 sentence, pick a direction in 3 minutes with what you know, set a review date so you can adjust instead of obsess. You can apply this to sending your first cold email, launching a tiny online project, asking for feedback, uploading a song, choosing a course, starting a workout routine, pitching an idea, starting a newsletter, ending something that isn't working. Don't just listen to me say this. Right after this video, I want you to test it on one decision that's been stuck in your head, not 10 decisions, one. And if this way of thinking hits you in the chest a little, if you can feel that part of you that's tired of delay waking up, I want you with me for the long term. Subscribe here, join this community of people who are not interested in a comfortable, average life. Join a group that wants to make bold things, ship fast, think clearly, and learn in public. Because if you surround yourself with people who move, you'll move too. But I also want you to see how this works when the stakes are bigger and the world is watching. There's this myth that big decisions get easier as you get more successful. That once you have money, reputation, experience, the fear fades. It doesn't. When we released the original iMac without a floppy drive, people thought we were insane. Floppy disks were everywhere. It was how people moved files around. But I believed the future was in faster, more modern ways of moving data. Keeping the floppy drive just because everyone else had it felt like dragging a corpse into the future, we shipped without it. The criticism was loud, pundits wrote articles, people complained, then the world moved on. Years later, we removed the headphone jack from the iPhone. Same script, outrage, jokes, anger. They've gone too far this time. But we were already living a few years ahead in our minds. We knew the future was wireless. We knew that by forcing the change, we could build better internal architecture, more space for battery and other components. We took the hit now to move the world where it needed to go. Here's what you need to see. Every one of those decisions could have been delayed for years by overthinking. We could have waited for more studies, more user research, more market tests. We could have said, let's be safe, let's not upset people, let's keep compatibility a little longer. If we had done that, someone else would have made the bold call first, and Apple wouldn't be Apple. Instead, we made the call, shipped the product, then watched what happened. We set our own review dates in the form of future versions. We listened to feedback, looked at data, and iterated. I've made decisions that hurt in the short term. Getting fired from Apple was not my choice, but what I did afterward was, I could have disappeared, I could have gotten bitter. Instead, I decided to build again. Next, Pixar. When we bet on computer animation at Pixar, the world didn't believe. Animated films were drawn by hand. That's how it had always been done. We poured years and millions into something unproven. Toy Story was not a sure thing. It was a 3-minute decision stretched over a decade of execution. Define the stakes, pick a direction, keep a review point in mind. If Toy Story had failed, the worst case was very bad for us financially. We could have been done. But the best case was changing the entire film industry. That was worth the risk. You won't always be dealing with billions of dollars in global markets, but the pattern is the same for you. Decide with what you know, accept that some people will hate it. Ship. Then let reality, not your imagination, teach you. The world will always criticize bold moves. That's the price of moving first. But the world never builds statues for the committee that kept every option open and shipped nothing. There's another side to this, saying no. I've said that focus means saying no to 1,000 good ideas. When we were building the iPhone, there were countless features we could have added. Each one seemed reasonable, each one had fans, but every yes you add makes the product more bloated, more confusing, slower to ship. So we said no. Again and again, you need to do the same with your choices. Say no to the constant second guessing. Say no to asking 12 people for validation before every small move. Say no to the fantasy of the perfect moment. Every no you say to fear makes space for one decisive yes to action. Now, I want to bring all of this down from giant product decisions to your next 3 weeks. Because philosophy is nice, but change happens in calendar time. I want you to think about the next 21 days of your life as a small laboratory, not a battlefield where you prove your worth forever, a lab where you run experiments. For 21 days, you're going to apply the 3-minute decision to at least one decision every single day. One a day. That's it. Not 10. One. It could be about school, choosing a topic, emailing a professor, applying for a scholarship. It could be about work, proposing a small project, sharing an idea in a meeting, asking for feedback. It could be about your creative life, posting a song, publishing a sketch, launching a tiny website, starting a newsletter. It could be about your body, picking a workout schedule, deciding to walk every day, trying a different diet for 2 weeks. Every day you pick one decision that you've been dragging your feet on. You sit down with a notebook or a simple note on your phone. You create what I'll call a decision log. You write the date, you write the decision, you write that one sentence. If I'm wrong, what actually happens? You give yourself 3 minutes to pick a direction, then you pick a review date. That's it. That's your daily rep. You don't need a fancy app. You don't need a complicated system. The point is to create visible proof that you're no longer living only in your head. By day 5, you'll have 5 logged decisions, 5 tiny ships launched into the world. Some will feel trivial, that's fine, you're building a muscle. By day 10, something interesting happens. You start to trust yourself more, you start to realize you can actually handle being wrong. You see that most worst case scenarios never show up. Your fear loses some of its authority. By day 15, you'll have more learning from your own life than from any book on productivity or self-help. You'll see patterns. You'll notice what kinds of decisions scare you. You'll notice which ones energize you. You'll start refining your future choices based on real data, your behavior, your results. By day 21, you will have a list of shipped actions with lessons attached, instead of a pile of ideas in your head with nothing to show. And here's something subtle but powerful. You will have a new identity. You'll no longer be the person who overthinks everything. You'll be the person who decides, acts, and adjusts. If you want to make this even more powerful, do what I've always asked our teams to do. Learn in public. Share one of your daily decisions with someone, a friend, a mentor, this community. Today I used my 3-minute script to do X. My review date is Y. You don't need to brag, just report. When you publicly commit, you raise your standards, you give your future self a little extra pressure to show up. You will still feel fear, you will still have doubts, that's fine. Courage is not the absence of fear, courage is doing the thing with fear sitting in the passenger seat. There will be days in this 21-day challenge when you'll want to skip. You'll tell yourself, this decision isn't important enough, or I'm too tired, or I'll do 2 tomorrow. That's exactly when you must not negotiate. Because this isn't really about the specific decisions, it's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted to act when you say you will. You break that promise too often and your confidence collapses. So here's my challenge to you. Before this day ends, make your first entry in your decision log. Use the 3-minute script, decide, act, and set your review date. And then if you're willing, share that first decision in the comments. Not just to tell me, to tell yourself. Say, here's the decision I finally made. Here's what I'm doing. Let this be the first piece of evidence that you are done living inside your own hesitation. There's one more reason I care so much about this topic. It's not productivity, it's not efficiency, it's something much more serious. I've said before that remembering I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to make big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, falls away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. I want you to really hear this. Your time is limited. Not in a poetic sense, in a very literal calendar sense. You get a certain number of days, you don't know the number, but it's finite. Overthinking is not just an annoying habit, it's a quiet way of throwing days in the trash. Every hour you spend replaying the same decision with no new information is an hour you never get back. Every idea that dies in your head because you were afraid to look foolish is a gift you withheld from the rest of us. When I look back at my life, the regrets are not about the bold things we tried that didn't work. Those become stories, they become lessons, they become foundations for the next thing. The real regrets are the times I ignored my own intuition, the times I let noise drown out the inner voice that said, go, now. Here's what I want for you. I want you to live a life where, when you look back, you see a trail of shipped ideas, attempted projects, honest experiments, and courageous decisions. Not a perfectly clean record, a vivid one. Staying hungry and staying foolish isn't about being reckless. It's about choosing growth over comfort, learning over protecting your ego, movement over paralysis. It's about saying, I would rather be wrong in motion than stuck in my imagination. So let's put this all together. You crush overthinking, not by becoming a perfectly calm person, but by building habits that make hesitation expensive and action easy. You remember that real learning happens when something ships. that your job is not to be certain, your job is to be courageous and curious. You use the 3-minute decision. Define the real stakes in 1 sentence. Pick a direction in 3 minutes using what you know now, and set a review date so you can adjust instead of obsess. You run your 21-day no paralysis challenge. 1 logged decision a day, 1 act of courage a day. 21 days of proof that you're someone who moves, and you keep saying no. No to the endless delay. No to the illusion of the perfect time. No to the version of yourself that hides behind analysis. Now here's how we end this conversation. I want you to pause and pick 1 decision that has been sitting in your head for too long. You already know what it is. It popped up the moment I said that. Use the 3-minute script on it. Define the stakes. Decide. Act. Set the review date. Then come back and tell me. Share that first move in the comments. Not because I need the engagement, because you need the accountability. Say, here's the decision I finally made. Here's what I'm doing. Right? And if you felt something shift in you during this video, if a part of you woke up and said, I'm done living inside my own hesitation, then subscribe. Stay here. Stay with this community of builders, rebels, and thinkers who want to ship ideas fast, crush analysis paralysis, and turn overthinking into action. In the next video, we're going to go even deeper into 1 crucial skill: how to decide what to say no to, so your life doesn't drown in half-finished projects and empty promises. Your life is not a rehearsal. The cursor is blinking. The clock is moving. Decide, then move.